And once more, dear friends, we are going into the breach. Oh, you're Catholic? Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. You acted like an American, okay? Now, there's a number of different things that have to be done in this country to change the culture, which will in turn change the politics.
And the culture's a swamp. Because that is not a Catholic teaching.
Right.
And the cafeteria is closed, my friend.
Yeah. Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear friends, we are going into the breach. He tells the truth, just like we do at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on Sunday nights, 8 o'clock, Facebook Live. We got a great show for you tonight because, as we always say, the left is teeing it up for us, and we're Barry Bonds standing at home plate, ready to knock their lies right into San Francisco Bay. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Resinello. Once more, dear friends, we're going into the breach, Sunday night, 8 o'clock, Facebook Live. Thanks again for joining us. So we have a really good talk, a lot of good topics, or I use the word good loosely. A lot of interesting, things to talk about, some things that happened over the last week. We do want to give everybody a heads up that we did an interview today that should be broadcast over the next couple of days with Rick Delano, who's an independent film producer. He produced a movie called The Principal, and he just produced Wolfgang Smith's a movie with Wolfgang Smith on the end of quantum reality. Now, it sounds like a little scientific, and honestly, Joe and I are not scientists, but it's a really good interview because we talk about the agenda that, yes, a lot of agendas go on that we talk about at this show, but the agenda of the scientific community. And plus, he does get into, Rick Delano gets into a lot of things as far as challenging the paradigms in the scientific community, primarily the atheistic scientific community, and really putting the screws to them to have to force them to do real science. Anyway, it's an interesting interview, and because Joe and I are in it, it's going to be entertaining. So we want to thank Jonathan Ross over at Holy Faith Media. He got us together with Rick Delano, and it will be broadcast on our page here and also on Holy Faith Media. So we just give you a heads up to take a look, to keep your eye out for that. Having said that, let's get back to the mundane and what's going on in our culture and society and politics. So take it away, Mr. Resinello.
We last week, while we were doing our show, we missed the Golden Globes. I would never watch the Golden Globes. Haven't watched the Golden Globes. I don't even know how. Maybe I never have watched the Golden Globes. By the way, I'm not alone because the ratings have plummeted. Just to give you some facts, and I'm going to give you some facts. This was the 77th Golden Globe. Last year, show, it was the lowest rated in a decade, and this particular show was 6 points lower than that. So no one is watching. No one. So, as we all know, Ricky Gervais kind of torched Hollywood, whether he was doing it on purpose or whether he was just looking for laughs, remains to be seen, but it was done. People were talking about it all week, so I felt like we would be remiss if we did not discuss it. Let's just talk about two statements of what he said, and I don't want to really focus on Gervais. I have something else I'd like to talk about with regard to the Golden Globes, but I just want to talk about two of his statements. The first one, he took a swipe at Apple, Amazon, and Disney. He basically said, "You say you're woke, but the companies you work for, Apple, Amazon, Disney, if ISIS started a streaming service, you'd call your agent, wouldn't you?" I'm sorry, that's funny. It is funny.
I'm gonna be totally fair, Joe. Before you go to the next, let's call it statement/joke that he made, because he was making a statement.
Oh, absolutely.
He was making a statement in the form of
the CEO of Apple,
with Tim Cook sitting right there. Let's be clear about Ricky Gervais. He's on the political left. He hates guys like us. Okay, so he's no fan of religion. He goes, I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. All right. So I can't stand Ricky Gervais. But in fairness, the guy makes me laugh. Okay. I choose not to watch him. But when I do, he has made me laugh. I used to watch a show, Extras, which really made me laugh. I thought it was a good show. It was funny. Okay. But I'm open-minded. But the people in Hollywood who are always saying, we have to push boundaries. We have to push boundaries. We have to just, shift. There has to be a paradigm shift, and we need to push the boundaries and push our culture and push against traditional religion and push against all that. Okay, fair enough. But now you got pushed against, and you don't like it because what he did was he told the truth. He told the truth. Who else did he call out about employing people in sweatshops in China. Or I think that was Apple too.
Well,
so he zinged Apple twice.
Well, and also, I'm not going to get into all of it because at the end of the day, that's not really what we're going to focus upon. But Joe touched on something. He told the truth. He just made it he just sold it in the form of humor. But there was a lot of truth there.
He kept saying too, he goes, come on, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. I'm just telling a joke. I believed him. You're just telling a joke. But Ricky, remember something. Your intolerant people out there are not Joe and I. It's the people that you were addressing who want to teach the rest of us just how intolerant we are because they're the tolerant
and
ones.
that gives us, the piece de resistance of the whole night. What he said was, "You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world," he told the crowd. "Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg."
I thought that was hysterical.
So if you win, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and go F off. And that is what he said. I find this to be incredibly truthful, and this is why. We as a society, you go check out, your groceries at whatever supermarket you attend, wherever you're, living, whoever's listening to us. You have People magazine, you have Star magazine. America is just absolutely loving the Hollywood set. They listen to what they say. You have all these crazy shows. I can't even think of.
I don't even watch them.
Yeah, but I mean, people love People magazine. They're going through these people, their lives, and this is just speaking objectively. Most of them are in utter ruin. They're married numerous times. They're in and out of rehab.
But Joe, they're wealthy and famous. Aren't we supposed to envy them? Aren't we supposed to look to them?
The thing that he also brought out, they're not even educated in some cases. I don't, have stats, but not all of them even went to college. Right. Some of them are childhood stars, like Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't think he even went to college, yet he's lecturing the world on the environment.
Right. Like he's got something. The one thing about you're getting to is, I said this for years. This comes from a dues-paying member of the Screen Actors Guild. I still have my SAG card. I wanted to be an actor back in the day. I know a lot about movies. I know a lot about the industry. Okay, so I'm not talking just from the outside. The fact is, I've said this to some of my actor friends. What makes an actor in Hollywood more equipped to comment on the culture and on the politics and on anything else? What necessarily enlightens them because of their profession, where they pretend that they're other people, okay, for a lot of money on film? What makes them more, yes, equipped is the word, to comment on the rest of us and how we live our lives? And yet that's what you hear all the time from them. And this is not, like Joe mentioned, the Golden Globes ratings have gone down. The Academy Awards ratings.
They're not even going to have an MC. I read this upcoming Academy Award.
The MC is not their problem.
I agree. That's the most.
The MC is not their problem.
And
it's the people that are going up to accept the award. They're the problem. Ricky Gervais was absolutely right.
He was the best thing of the show.
Right. Because then we'll get into it in the next segment. But then you get up there that people just insist on making political speeches. And I remember 20 years ago, I used to watch the Academy Awards every single year. From the late 80s, I watched the Academy Awards. I wanted to be an actor. That's when I was in school and I was studying acting and everything else. Okay, and I remember 1990 and Joe Pesci was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and Goodfellas was nominated for Best Picture, and Scorsese for Best Director. I watched it every single year. Okay, and I watched it steadily decrease until the point where I was one of the people that said, I'm not watching this anymore. And they knew it, by the way, because the big outrage back then was when Tim Robbins and Susan Sarandon would get up there and they would pontificate about this, that, or the other thing. And they were told, see how the Academy has changed? They were told, no political statements the next time, or else you're not going to be asked back. And they cut it down. Because Hollywood, what do you say, Joe? They're all about money, okay? They don't want you getting up there to make political statements. Don't cheese off those conservative people out there, because we want their money too. We don't like them. We don't agree with them, but their money's green and we want it. Now, it's like they don't seem to. Now, I'm talking about the Academy Awards, but it's the same situation with Golden Globes and the Academy Awards. Nobody cares. Nobody's watching. Nobody cares what you had to say. In fact, I will bet my bottom dollar, not knowing it, 10 times the amount of people that watched the Golden Globes saw that 8 minutes of Ricky Gervais on YouTube and social media. I bet you 10 times as many people took the time to watch Ricky Gervais.
I did. I listened to the whole thing.
Tearing them apart than actually watched the Golden Globes. You know what? We need to start doing more of that, but we've said on the show before, don't just tune out the award shows. Stop going to watch their movies. Stop watching their movies.
And that will change the culture. You see, people respond to that. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. And this is something I'm going to continue to repeat. The bishops just sent their annual appeal to my family. This will be the second year in a row that I write them, actually the third, that I write them a letter and say, in good conscience, the American Catholic bishops, I am giving you nothing. I will give to the poor. I will give to the missionaries of charity, great, great charity. And there's many other good charities.
Mm-hmm.
I will not give them anything. And what also I do with my wife, we fast for the American Catholic Church and the Catholic Church Universal every Wednesday. Every Wednesday. What we can do, all those who are Catholic out there, you can fast and pray, because that's how we reach the ears and eyes of God. And you don't give them money.
Don't give them a dime.
And this is how you change things.
That's right.
Because sadly, that's what moves people.
You know,
this is what moves people. And this is what you do. And
well,
regarding
that's how you move
Hollywood,
them.
you don't watch their movies.
Right.
You don't give them money, and they will change their tune.
But by the way, I just wanted to pick up on what you said real quick about not giving money to the bishops. At our parish, one of our parish members, we were in the sacristy, right, preparing for Mass, and so we were back there because we both serve at Mass. And one of the ladies there, she goes, did you guys get the annual appeal? Now, we're in the Archdiocese of Newark. Did you guys get the annual appeal for the Archdiocese? And we're like, well, I think I did. I don't know what happened. He goes, yeah, I got it. I opened up and I looked at it. I said, are you kidding? I ripped it up and threw it in the garbage.
I just write them a letter right back. I write a letter, nice, I'm polite and respectful. I say in good conscience, I can't give you anything, and nor will I. Count on my prayers. My wife and I fast for the church every Wednesday. Have a good day.
And by the way, I do want to pick up on about how we could keep Hollywood in check. Not going to get long-winded about this, but let's remember in this country, from the time that Hollywood was created and all the movies they made up till 1965, there was a group in America called the Legion of Decency. It was a Catholic group, and the Legion of Decency held Hollywood in check. The Legion of Decency required that in order to approve for Catholic audiences, obviously this is a Catholic organization, but others did listen. Protestants, from what I understand historically, did listen when the Legion of Decency came out, because they were like, well, what's the church saying about this? But there was no nudity, of course, so no pornography, no gratuitous violence, no blasphemy, okay, and no profanity.
Well, Joe, that's when the bishops had some authority.
Right.
They have no authority, and they have no one to blame but themselves. Now, don't get me wrong. I still go to church because I need the sacraments. Don't confuse the two things. And there are many good churches, as in parishes. There are many good priests. And there are many good charities that are affiliated with the Catholic Church. I'll argue that with anybody on the earth, and you're not going to win that argument. Mm-hmm. As my mother would say, if the Catholic Church shut its doors, you'd hear the screams across the ocean. It is by far, no one is even close, the largest charitable organization on the planet. Mm-hmm. There's no one even close to it. And their endowment is the largest. By the way, that's what they want anyway, in terms of the powers that be. They want their money, they want their real estate. That's another discussion for another time.
We'll have that another time. But before you go to the next part of this, let's end that by saying kudos to Ricky Gervais for telling the emperor he has no clothes and pointing the finger at them, and really, really, really taking them down, except the fact that if you make fun of Joe Pesci again, Ricky Gervais, I'm going to come and I'll find you. I'm going to smash your face, and I'm going to have him with me. So anyway, let's give a quick shout out. So PM's joining us. PM, what's happening? My baby's out there. Lawrence, PM. You're both in long sleeves. It must be cold there. It hit 65 degrees today, but it got a little chilly tonight. Anyway, Suzanne, Vinny, Jonathan Ross, Holy Faith Media, Arvin, Sean's with us. And I did see one comment that I went. Oh, Dave joined us. Aldo. And I did want to say that I mentioned that Joe Pesci got nominated in 1990 for Best Supporting Actor.
He got nominated too.
And PM chimed in, nominated for getting your shine box. Yes, exactly. Nice. Good fellas. And Barbara's joining in, Eddie's joining in, and Siobhan's joining us from Brooklyn. Hey, Siobhan, what's happening? So anyway, now Ricky Gervais just got done with 8 minutes of taking down these Hollywood actors, trying to try to tell them to be a little humble, okay, show a little humility, take your award and leave. That leads us to those who do not have ears to hear, and Joe's going to pick up on that because there was a particularly disgusting speech giving, and we're going to tell you why it was disgusting and who the disgusting person was.
Well, the woman this is basically the focus of Golden Globes. I just wanted to highlight the Gervais piece, but Michelle Williams gave a speech at the Golden Globes. She played Charity Barnum in The Greatest Showman. It was I'm trying to think. It was a television movie, and she won an award. Anyway, so basically, she gave a speech that insinuated that she personally had an abortion while she didn't say she did. I want to read you what she said, and she got an enormous applause from the audience.
Which is the saddest part
I want to read it to you. She said, "I'm grateful for the acknowledgement of the choices I've made and also grateful to have lived at a moment in our society where choice exists. As women and as girls, things can happen to our bodies that are not our choice." I would disagree with that, but I'll go on. "I've tried my very best to live a life of my own making and not just a series of events that happened to me, but one that I could stand back and look at and recognize my handwriting all over it, sometimes messy and scrawling, sometimes careful and precise, but one that I have carved with my own hand. I wouldn't have been able to do this without employing a woman's right to choose." In an interview afterward, when asked by a reporter if she had personal experience, she refused to elaborate. But this is also what she said. She said, "So women 18 to 118, when it is time to vote, please do so in your own interest. It's what men have been doing for years."
Right. So
interesting. This is what I would say to Mrs. Williams. Babies do not keep us from our dreams. You see, this is so sad. And why is it sad? Because not only in an abortion, we are killing a life. And we are, and dogma is not saying this, science is saying it. Science is saying it. And they've gotten past that. They now just say, get rid of the child, because science is saying that it's a life.
Right. But
it also, so first and foremost, we're taking a life. That's the first part. It's also not pro-woman.
Mm-hmm.
It is not pro-woman. This is how it's sold. I'm going to read you what happens to women who have abortions. This is not dogma. This is post-traumatic effects of abortions. These are women who have had abortions. This is what happens to them. This is, once again, science. I'm going to read it to you. Bouts of crying, depression, guilt, inability to forgive yourself, intense grief and sadness, anger and rage, emotional numbness, sexual problems or promiscuous behavior, eating disorders, lowered self-esteem, drug and alcohol abuse, nightmares and sleep disturbance, suicidal urges, difficulty with relationships, anxiety and panic attacks, flashbacks, multiple abortions, pattern of repeat crisis pregnancy, discomfort around babies or pregnant women, fear or ambivalence towards pregnancy. Does that sound pro-woman to you? This is science.
But
now.
She had her choices, Joe.
And this is what these people are applauding. in this poor soul who is clearly wounded. Wounded. This is where we're at in the culture.
That's right.
And no one wants to address it.
No.
No one wants to address it. And they lie to you. Oh, we're pro-woman. First of all, let me first say this. You're taking a life. Second of all, you are not pro-woman. You are not pro-woman.
Well, you just blew a hole in the whole idea that choice and abortion is pro-woman, because obviously it's not. Let's talk about another aspect of this too. Okay, you have all the pagans sitting out there in the all about hoping that they get the award. All the self-centered people, and we say pagans. Remember something. The term neo-paganism is used a lot, and I don't think people take the time sometimes to simply define it. It's just kind of thrown out there like a bomb. Joe and I are going to break this down for you, okay? Paganism before Christ, in other words, pagan religions, Roman religion, Greek religion, okay, worshipped a pantheon of gods. It's a false god. Modern pagans, what they do is they worship another false god themselves. So they determine what's right and wrong, the same way the gods did back then. What's also central to paganism back then and the neo-paganism, okay? And this speaks to Michelle Williams, child sacrifice. People always want to overlook that, okay, because that's what it is. Joe made a good point. He said science tells you that's a baby in the womb, okay? They know that. They don't care. The same way that Roman parents back, obviously during the time of the Roman Empire.
This is factual.
This is talking about, when they're doing well, the woman gives birth, okay? They take their child. Usually it would be like their firstborn child, okay? They want to offer this child up for their prosperity. And they go to I think it was the statue of, one of the pagan statues, where the hands were shaped like this, okay? And the statue was metal. And the belly was a furnace where you put in fire, hot coals and fire. And the parents would say their prayers to their false god. They would take their child, all right, and they would put the child into the arms of the false god. Obviously, I don't mean to be too graphic. The child would obviously be screaming to high heaven, all right? And the child rolls into the furnace, which is the belly, and then the child obviously dies and is burned alive, okay?
Or if you didn't want the child, where did they put them?
And then if you didn't want the child, that was an offer to the gods, okay? Which is what Michelle Williams doing. She's offering her child up, or has offered her child up, to the god of herself, because she has much more important things to do in life than take care of the child that she conceived in the womb by her own actions.
Or give it up for adoption.
Well, that's a whole other story where Planned Parenthood comes in, and even a woman who might think that way, Planned Parenthood tries to convince them not to even do that. But the other thing Joe mentioned was referring to is when the parents would then, now this was a matter of exposure. This is where the child is just simply inconvenient. There's not really necessarily an offering to the false gods, but they would take the child, go put them under the bridge. Let's say if you were talking about in Rome, put them under the bridge.
And who would take the children?
The early Christians who were persecuted by Nero, okay, in the 1st century AD, the ones residing in Rome knew about this practice, and they would go under the bridge at night to go and retrieve the children before they died. And they brought them home, they had them baptized, and they raised those children.
And who does that
own.
now? The Catholic Church.
The Catholic Church does that.
You see, this is one of the also beat arguments that always come. You talk about woman has to have the baby, but you don't take care of the baby. Wrong. There are religious orders that take care of children. There are religious orders that take care of women. Right. Sisters of Life in Manhattan. That's just one.
Right.
Another one is Chris Bell's home, which he runs out of Hoboken. He's a layman. He takes in women and helps them. Great, great, great act of charity.
Right.
This is a fact. The Catholic Church backs up its position. It backs it up. It's the same thing with people who die of AIDS. Guess who's taking care of them?
Catholic Church.
The Catholic Church. The guy who's swinging from a pole on Christopher Street in Manhattan sure as hell isn't.
And that's his friend that's dying. And he's not lifting a finger.
This is what I'm saying. Do you think the people in Hollywood who's clapping, Michelle, great, when she's crying her eyes out in the middle of the night, or she has bouts of depression or anxiety, she wants to kill herself?
Well, Joe, let her hold. This is the way I was thinking about it, okay? We were talking about paganism and false gods. She's got the false god in her hand. She's got her idol in her hand. It's her Golden Globe Award. So when she's mourning her child, which she will be, as Joe just described, when she's mourning the child she killed in the womb, let her find comfort in her false god of her Golden Globe Award.
And here's
on
another
top,
thing.
real quick, and on top of that, Suzanne's exactly right. Comes a time we got to get back to a little old-fashioned reality. Suzanne says the trained seals that need to be told that hell is real and that people go there. Applaud that, Michelle Williams. Because you just admitted for your own convenience and for your own celebrity and for your own career and for your bank book, you killed your child, okay? And you need to repent, young lady. You need to repent. And here's the
beautiful thing. No matter what we do in life, we all are sinners. You're looking at two prodigal sons right here. You just go to confession.
Well, say you're sorry.
You say you're sorry to God. You go to confession. And I promise you, you'll feel better. We'll end it on that.
All right, so quick shout. Well, no, I think everybody's here, and also Jonathan started a watch party. So we got a few other people joining us right now. So we're going to
go to China. Last week we talked a little bit about Christian persecution. Well, it's still going on in other parts of the world. We're going to talk about that in China, but it's not just Christian persecution; it's also Muslim persecution. This is under the president. His name is Xi Jinping, and basically 2019 was the worst religious persecution in China's history. In 2019,
so that includes Mao.
That I was just going to say.
That includes Mao.
Basically, couple factoids to throw at you. Of course, these are things the mainstream media don't talk about. Currently, under all religious believers in China, this is required. Let the party lead, listen to the party, walk behind the party. In 2018 alone, there were 10,000 Protestant churches that were closed by force by the government, Protestant churches. And under Xi, the current president, he was personally responsible for formulating a policy that incarcerated some 3 million Muslims in China for so-called re-education in camps without any attested charges.
Right.
That's going on right now in China. Let's not even talk about how the left is ignoring the protesters in Hong Kong, who by far are some of the bravest people out there. They make Greta Thunberg the person of the year. And who I would have chose? I would have chose the faces of the protesters of Hong Kong who are basically getting their butts kicked and will be thrown in prison.
I think Xi Jinping said he didn't use maybe this exact phrase, but it was very reminiscent of the phrase. We'll grind them all into dust. We will grind them all into dust.
And there is no due process.
No.
You don't get a lawyer and you don't get a telephone call when you go to jail in China.
I wish people would admit, on a different note, that this experiment in bringing China into the first world economically, and that the economic prosperity would lead to the rise of democratic institutions and things like that, and make China less totalitarian. It's failed. China is as totalitarian as it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. There's no religious liberty. Okay, certainly they still, unless I'm wrong, I did hear, I might be wrong with this, but I believe they still enforce the one-child policy. So they force women to have abortions. So if a woman is pregnant with her second child, the state will come in, they will take that woman by force, and they will force an abortion on her. So there's no religious liberty, there's no freedom of the press. Okay, people don't have political freedom in China. And we were sold the bill of goods. They say, well, let's bring China into the modern world economically. Well, you know what? Right. So the thing is, you just hit like the UN, the most useless organization in the world. Donald Trump. did a good
Waste.
job by holding NATO to account and raising money out of NATO and trying to tell them you need to start paying your fair share. Not for nothing. I think there comes a time. Listen, organizations have come and gone. Remember under Woodrow Wilson, you had the Organization of American States, or was it the League of Nations? It lasted for a while. It failed. The UN is a failure. It's full through and through with nothing but global agendas and global elites, and picking and choosing who they want to, condemn one day, and they don't condemn this one the next day. We need to pull out of the United Nations because look, again, China. All right. First of all, as Catholics, we know you have the above ground church in China. That's just a state Catholic church. And that's another conversation why our own hierarchy is not doing more about that. Then you have the underground Catholic Church where the real, these people have a lot of nerve. They have a lot of courage.
Oh, sure.
To try to practice. It's just the boot on the face of humanity. That's what the communists, the Chinese communists are doing over there. And the world doesn't say anything. They say, oh, they have so much. They make so many things now. It's like Ricky Gervais said in the first. He told Tim Cook, you make billions of dollars on people working in sweatshops in China. No, this is what we have to look to. We look to China as being some sort of a civilized country, particularly on the one-child policy that they've had for decades now. I remember I was a little kid and 60 Minutes did a program on that. I was a little kid. It was in the 70s. All right. It was like, no. Why do we have to bend to China is my point.
Also, this is also interesting, though. I thought this was interesting. Increased persecution has failed to curtail the Christian increase in China. Currently, there are 100 million Christians in China and only 90 million Chinese Communist Party members. And it's projected that by 2030, there will be 250 million Christians in China. What's the little moral of the story? We could take that from the Nazis. The Chinese should take note. Evil regimes may seem mighty and powerful, but they're temporary.
They're always temporary.
They're temporary. We should take note of that too.
That's
because we're killing 2,500 babies in the womb every day in America.
Right.
Let me repeat that. 2,500 babies a day.
That blood's on our hands.
In America.
Right.
And when you pull the lever for a Democrat, that is what you support. This is the modern day slavery issue, and you're on the wrong side of history.
And they keep trying to lecture us that we're on the wrong side of history. I do want to make a point. I want to tell a little story about what Joe just said. And I think it's an important one. And it was told by a Catholic cardinal. When Pope Benedict XVI was elected, Cardinal George of Chicago was there. He was there on the balcony when Benedict XVI came out. Am I right?
Yeah.
And Cardinal George was standing behind Pope Benedict, and he had a very he had a still look on his face. He was looking out into Vatican Square with the Pope there and other people. They were congratulating the Pope, and they were smiling, and he wasn't smiling. Okay, so afterwards, a reporter had asked him, said, Cardinal, Your Eminence, you seem to have like a very serious look on your face. And again, this speaks to what Joe was talking about, how things are temporary. The reporter asked Cardinal George, what were you thinking about? And he said, what I was thinking was that in that same square that I was looking out into, St. Peter was killed. St. Peter was crucified upside down right there by the Emperor Nero. And that persecutions took place for the next 2 centuries in Rome under certain emperors and different emperors in that same area, obviously in Rome, that Cardinal George was looking out to. He said, and I realized at that moment, where is the successor of Nero? Where is the successor of Diocletian? Where is the successor of Marcus Aurelius? They don't exist. He said, where is the successor of St. Peter? He's standing right there. These regimes, these communists, these totalitarians, these people who think they're all powerful, they lose in the end. They lose in the end. That's all I wanted to say.
It's a good point. Now we're going to go to New Jersey. We lose every day.
I know, I was going to say.
We lose every day.
Talk about totalitarian regimes.
New Jersey this week organized a rosary rally to stop an extreme state bill. I just wanted to bring it.
I just have to hold on. I have to let this sink in. A rosary rally in New Jersey.
Oh yeah, baby.
Things are looking up
in Trenton. The law would infringe on religious liberty. It's a radical New Jersey bill. The bill is S3804 and A5508. Basically, it would force religious employers to provide health insurance or medication or devices/procedures that violate their beliefs. Why are you forcing Catholics or traditional Jews to do things that go against their religion?
for the same reason we just mentioned about the Neros and the communists and everybody else.
Why can't you carve that out? Why? But this is where we're at. So some good people in New Jersey went to Trenton. This took place on Thursday this week at 10:30, and they prayed the rosary in public in defiance and defense of religious liberty. Okay, this is the point I want to make. This is what we need to do. We have to make our voices known. Don't give people money that do things that violate our conscience or violate our religious liberty. That goes for movies, that goes for companies, and you do things like this. It's time to stand up. This is what this show is about. Stop going along to get along. It's time to make your voice heard. It's not just about going to the ballot box. First of all, if you go to the ballot box, know what you're voting for. We have to raise our awareness of what is going on. That's number one. Number two, we have to make our voices heard. That's my first point. My second point is this: prayer matters. The left loves to make fun of us. Oh, our prayers go to people. I'm going to tell you how to make your prayers powerful. Fast and pray. Fast and pray. That's what the scripture says. Christ said that in the Bible to his disciples. They said, we can't do what you just did. And what he said to them, I'm paraphrasing because I'm a crazy man from New Jersey and that's what I do. I'm paraphrasing. He said, the only way to address this is through prayer and fasting. You need to put a little bit of your skin in the game. Prayer and fasting. That's why we pray during Lent, and that's why we fast during Lent, and we should do the same thing during Advent. That's why Christ went into the desert for 40 days, and what did he do?
Fasted.
He fasted, because that was the beginning of when he was going to go to Jerusalem and get his butt handed to him. So what did he have to do to prepare for it? He prayed and he fasted. This is what we do. This is the battle armor. And you don't give the people that do things like this to us money, and you don't vote for them.
Well, the main thing is when it comes to the church and the people who are not backing us up, don't give them money. When it comes to you can't vote for these people. Not because you want to win all the time. Joe and I are realists. We understand, politically speaking, you don't win all the time. But these people have no respect, as we've said a million times in the show, no respect for the democratic process. They have no semblance of even pretending that they represent the people, okay? Because why would Governor Murphy sign a law that affects the Catholic Church when so large a percentage of the population in New Jersey are Roman Catholics? And I blame Catholics for that too, by the way. Plenty of Catholics vote for Phil Murphy. And if I remember correctly, Phil Murphy is Catholic himself.
If you are voting for Phil Murphy and you are Catholic, you clearly spell it with a K. There is no way that you could vote for Phil Murphy and call yourself a practicing Catholic. No.
I'm sorry, you can't.
No.
And don't talk to us about welfare. Don't talk about child services and the money that goes to that. Don't talk about us about public education. The guy is attacking your church. Now, you, Mr. and Mrs. Catholic in the suburbs, yes, I know I'm sounding a little judgmental. Why would you vote for a guy that's attacking your church? Why would you vote for a guy that's forcing your fellow Catholics to provide services that they do not want to, even if you wrongly support those same things, like abortifacient drugs and things, sterilization, and all things like that, which you shouldn't, okay, and you should repent of that. But even so, why would you allow the state to force Catholic hospitals to have to do things like this? Why? So you need to either step up and get on the right side of things, or really seriously consider whether or not you're Catholic. Because as Joe said, because then you're Catholic in name only. Then you're Catholic in name only. If we allow this, then and it's good. People in New Jersey actually standing up and going down and protesting. Because even in this godforsaken state, there's actually some people who are standing up. We talked about the Orthodox Jews in Lakewood a couple weeks ago. We talked about another rally that took place in Trenton. That was 2 months ago, about the whole gender ideology rage mob that's going through the public education establishment. They went down and they protested against that. Even in New Jersey, people are starting to raise their consciences. The answer is no. The answer is no, Mr. Murphy. We will not. And these bishops in New Jersey and Cardinal Tobin better have our back. You better have our back. Because we will start a campaign, I promise you. I'll knock on every door in this friggin' state. All right? And tell Catholics in this state not to send you one dime. And I will stop giving to my parish, too, so that you can't take your 10% assessment out of them. And we're going to promote that, too. That may even be a sin. I'll confess it. But we're not giving you any money till you start vocally stepping up and defending the Catholic Church and Catholics.
Well, there's some hope for New Jersey. This is a positive story.
Let's give a quick shout out. Mark just joined us. Mark, great show as always. By the way, I married a Jersey girl. Good choice.
Love it. Well, this is what happened too in New Jersey. They announced this week that Donald Trump is going to give a campaign rally in Wildwood, New Jersey this month, January 28th, for Jeff Van Drew.
I might go.
Dude, you should.
I might go.
By the way, for those who don't know who Jeff Van Drew is, he's a congressman from New Jersey who was elected as a Democrat, and because of this coup that they're calling an impeachment process, he changed over to the Republican Party in the bluest of blue states. Mm-hmm. You see, this is an indicator to Mr. Tom Perez, who is the DNC chair. This is not Texas. And you have a man who's elected as a Democrat who's fed up to here and changed parties in New Jersey. And Trump, who has his back, is going to campaign for him in Wildwood, New Jersey on the 28th of January. I'm going to throw some facts at you, all you New Jersey folks, particularly the Democrats who voted for all the swath of people who are destroying our good state and making it you can't live here anymore because it's so damn expensive. Here's some facts for you. New Jersey is flourishing under President Trump with 129,400 new jobs under President Trump's administration, including 9,600 new manufacturing jobs. These are the same manufacturing jobs that Obama said we would need a magic wand to get back in the United States of America.
So glad that liar's out of office.
Do you hear what I just said? Instead of listening to the nonsense that goes on the news, I'm giving you facts, jobs. That means people are working. They could pay their bills.
Save.
They could get ahead. This is working. His economic model is working. Yet all you hear are deranged people. We're deranged, but in a good way.
We're in a good way. Yeah. I'm unhinged, but I'm in a good way.
But they're deranged. They have the Trump derangement syndrome.
Right. He can't do
anything right. Now, I just told you, this is New Jersey.
Now, I want to be clear. I'm not sure because I haven't seen all his positions, okay? Now, if Jeff Van Drew was a Democrat, okay, my guess is he's probably pro-abortion, okay, or pro-choice on abortion, okay? So he may very well still hold that position, in which case Joe and I wouldn't vote for him. But there's a larger point here. Why would Donald Trump come to New Jersey? Why would he come to? Why would
he thinks he could win?
He thinks he could win New Jersey. You see, people in this state have a it seems to me a higher threshold for insanity on the part of the left. That's why it's always a blue state, but there nonetheless is a threshold. In other words, and this state is just constantly pushing. Why do you think of Chris Christie, who at least gave lip service to being pro-life? Okay, I have my problems with Chris Christie. You look at the whole middle of the state. Okay, Chris Christie won all those counties right down the middle of the state. And his opponent, I forgot who it was, won down near Trenton, up here, Essex County, Hudson County, Bergen, maybe not even Bergen County, Essex County, Hudson County, Union County, and down near Atlantic County. My point is that even New Jersey looks at what this party is doing and says, all right, it's time to put a check on these people because you're just going way too far. Even though on some issues they might fundamentally agree with them, but even they can sense their insanity and how they're doing things. And plus, you got this whole crop between the squad, between all the presidential nominees. They're talking about Green New Deals. They're talking about universal health care. They're talking about all these things. People, even level-headed Democrats in New Jersey go, no. And I do think Trump thinks he could win. Yes, it'd be nice. Again, I wouldn't vote for Jeff Van Drew if he is pro-abortion. But if that seat does go Republican, and people down there vote for Jeff Van Drew, that's going to be one kickoff going right before the election or going into the election that the Republican will pick off that seat, and there's only a handful more they need after that to take control back of the House, which is what we need. Jeff Van Drew might be pro-abortion, but at the end of the day, when it comes to all the nonsense the left is doing, at least he's going to caucus with the Republicans. He's going to support a lot of things that are going to keep their insanity at bay. So, it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out in this godforsaken state that we live in.
The swamp that is New Jersey.
Anyway, you're at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello. We're in the breach on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock, like clockwork on Facebook Live, and Sean just joined us. Hey, Sean, what's up, brother? So where are we headed next?
We're going to CNN.
Oh, there's stories that make me happy, and there's stories that really make me happy.
CNN settled with Covington Catholic student Nick Sandmann this week. For those of you who haven't been following our show, we've covered this from the very beginning. Nick Sandmann was treated very poorly by CNN at last year's March for Life. By the way, this year's March for Life, I believe, is January 25th. It's coming up.
Next Friday.
Correct. And they called him all types of things, a racist, this, that, and the other thing. I actually read something. There was the press coverage of the Covington Catholic students was one of the top 12 stories last year that the media screwed up. Of all of the screw-ups, and there was a lot of them, this was in the top 12. I read that in one periodical. Well, anyway, his lawyer, Lynn Wood, sued CNN for $250 million, and CNN had to settle. I'll be honest with you, it actually made me a little sad that they settled. I would not have.
Right.
The total amount that Lynn Wood is suing all of the media outlets, Washington Post, NBC, just at Universal,
and some individuals.
It's $800 million. So CNN basically knew that they had to settle because basically what I read, and this is what I did in terms of doing my research, basically they said that they could not prove that anyone is a racist, and they called him a racist. You can't prove, they couldn't prove
somebody's a racist.
So they settled. We don't know for how much. I'm sure it was a lot of money. This settlement should warn corporations and news people that any type of bias or derangement, when you start calling people names, is going to cost you big bucks.
It means you can't just say what you want about somebody.
And that's the idea.
I will say this. If Lynn Wood's strategy and the strategy of Nick Sandmann's parents was, look, they ruined this kid. I don't care what anybody says. They ruined his future, okay? Unless he gets a whole face makeover and all that kind of stuff. As soon as he says his name, people are going to know who he is because of what CNN did, all right? So if I'm the parents, remember, you made a good point. Lynn Wood has multiple lawsuits that he's filed. Washington Post, NBC, some individuals. So this was $250 million out of $800 million, which leaves $550 million. Okay, perhaps I'm just speculating here. The lawyers probably turned and said, "No, let's settle this. We'll settle. And we don't know the amount. Nick will be taken care of. No, because it's his money. All right. They ruined his chance of having any kind of career and making any money. So he'll be okay. In other words, he could build his life. He'll have enough money. But now we're going to go to the mat with the rest of them. Now, if we hear that, then I think that would prove my little speculation here. So I wouldn't blame the Sandmans for saying, look, they ruined our son. Say Mr. and Mrs. Sandman. They ruined our son. They ruined his chances of having a decent future because of their lies. Let's take that money, put it in a trust for him. All right, as he gets older, he could build his life. In the meantime, let's sue the you-know-what off the rest of it and take them all to court.
But this is along the same line of what we've been talking about all the time. They understand money, so you have to take it. You have to take them to the mat. You have to take them to the mat. You have to hold them accountable. It's like a cop. If you do something wrong, what happens in your car? You get a ticket. Why? It's a reminder. It's a cost. It's a consequence. You see, the consequence to them is this. You will not say something that's not substantiated by facts.
Mm-hmm.
You will not do it. And if you do,
cost you money.
It's going to cost you money.
Well, let's hope this settlement is substantial. I hate to find out if it gets leaked out. I hate to hear that it was like 10% or something like that. And that would be a significant amount of money for Nick Sandmann and his family, okay? But nonetheless, I said before, it won't be Jeff Zucker because obviously they settled. There was nothing that would warm my heart more. So now it's not Jeff Zucker. Now I want to see, what's his name? Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post. He owns Amazon. Jeff Bezos runs the world, by the way. He owns Amazon and the Washington Post. I want to see him have to hand over a check for $250 million to the Sandmans because a judge turns around and says, you lied about this young man. There was no settlement. You're going to pay the $250 million. I would love that. And some of these actors and actresses, like Kathy Griffin, who's a deadbeat, she brags about being a D-list actress. That's what she is. She's just trying to stay relevant. I'd love to see her have her bank book emptied out by Lynn Wood and the Sandmans. Now that's justice. Because like you said, we have to get it straight in this country. This goes beyond Nick Sandmann. You can't lie about people. You could criticize people, okay? You can. We have a right to. Joe and I do it on the show all the time, okay? You could criticize people. You can even attack them and their ideas.
But we use facts.
But you got to use facts. And you can't say something. I just got done talking about Jeff Van Drew. I said, I don't know whether he's pro-abortion or he's pro-life. I don't know.
And we can
I'll
make
admit
mistakes,
it. And I can make a mistake. Rather than make a mistake and call him pro-abortion if he's pro-life, I said, I don't know. In New Jersey, maybe. But the thing is, a little qualification doesn't hurt to say once in a while, I don't know the answer. Okay? It's fine. Okay? CNN could have said, we don't know what Nick Sandmann's motivations were. We don't know what's going on. We're finding out. We're staying on top of the story. They could have done that. They could have let some facts be known about the Native American radical who went up to him and basically was trying to push his buttons because that guy's no nice guy in this whole thing. He's no good guy. They could have waited, but they decided not to. Why? Because Nick Sandmann was wearing a Make America Great hat.
Cost you money.
So now it costs you money. And moving forward, I hope Lynn Wood establishes in these court proceedings where there's going to be some kind of precedent for this. That would be great. This way, the next time the New York Times wants to lie about somebody or the Washington Post or CNN or anybody, you're going to get sued and you're going to pay.
And I love it. And that's how you fight them. Lastly, I just want to throw a little observation that I noticed this week. Obviously, there was some back and forth between the U.S. and Iran. We had that basically military movement in Iran. That gentleman was killed. That general,
Soleimani.
He was killed. Iran launched some bombs at us. Trump spoke during the week. I just want you to notice something. For those of you who watch liberal media, did you notice that people seem sad that there was not a disastrous war with Iran?
Right.
Did you notice that? I did. They were actually saddened that things kind of leveled off. You know why? Because you're not good Americans. You are not a good American. You simply hate the president. And all you care about is his failure. You do not care about anything else. That's sad.
It's very sad.
And it's real. And also, just a little flashback to all the Democrats out there.
Speak the truth, Joe. Speak the truth.
Little flashback. Obama bombed countries. Obama went to war. And Obama used a kill list without Congress.
And he killed American citizens.
Just so you know.
Am I right about that? He killed American
Benghazi.
citizens. No. American citizens who went overseas to go and fight with our enemy, okay, who are still nonetheless American citizens. You really, I mean, okay, we won't get into that whole thing. We'll leave it where Joe left it because, again, it's one of those things where I don't have all the facts. But the bottom line is, yes, Obama did all these other things.
Coupled with the fact the president is the president. And just like Obama took out Osama bin Laden, he could take out a military person if he feels that it's in the interest of the country in a minute.
Well, especially
you don't need to go to Congress with everything. If you declare a war, you do.
But even then, you could take the necessary military action, and if it's going
nonsense.
to lead to war,
then
there's a period of time where you have to go and consult Congress, and then Congress approves the war. But the president does have the authority under our Constitution and our system to act. Okay, and I wish these people would just stop for a second. Donald Trump has his lawyers sitting right there with every decision he makes.
No kidding.
It's unfortunate that he has to do that all the time because everything he does is going to be an impeachable offense. Okay, everything he does will be an impeachable offense. Like you said, if he discovered a cure for cancer, they'll impeach him for that too. So he's got his lawyers right there, CNN and MSNBC and the rest of you, all you libs out there, all you people, all you Democrats in the House and Senate. He's got his lawyers sitting right there. You know it was a legal action. Some people I trust and listen to said it was an illegal act. It was not an illegal act.
But Joe, you see,
unless we're being lied to again.
They don't care. It's the perception that they're selling. You see, the media controls the public. It's the perception that they're selling people, and people buy it. They just buy it. Step back for a minute. I want to repeat what I just said. Obama, I threw my paper away. I was just so, Obama did all those things. The media didn't say a word.
He's a
they didn't say a word.
He's a brilliant tactician. He's a wonderful
commander-in-chief. So that's my point.
Yeah.
Step back for a moment. It's the Trump, dude, they're deranged. They're
really
utterly and absolutely deranged. The things that come out of the press's mouth, it's unbelievable.
At the end of the day,
it's unbelievable.
And listen, they might be memes on the internet and on social media, but at the end of the day, one of them is absolutely right. They're not doing this because they hate Donald Trump. They're doing this because they hate you, because you voted for him. Okay, that you didn't listen to their media machine. You didn't listen to the advertising industry. You didn't listen to Hollywood. You didn't listen to the elites. You knew in your gut that maybe Donald Trump is going to do things the right way. You took him at his word, and let's face it, he hasn't been perfect. All right, I have some problems with Donald Trump. He hasn't been perfect. But as far as my interests are concerned, and the reasons why I voted for him, for the most part, he's fulfilled those promises and is trying to fulfill them more. Okay? You need, as liberals, as Joe always says, you're doing this to him because you are bereft of ideas. You see, ideas that are going to challenge Donald Trump's ideas. If you want a globalist economic system and you don't want tariffs and protectionism, okay, in this country, then go and argue with him about it. If you want socialized medicine and you don't want what should be a free market system on health insurance in this country, then go argue with him about it. Go argue, debate, argue, make your point. But to try to say that he's not acting under the authority that the president has is a lie.
I get news for
it's
you.
A lie.
First they had the Russian crap that took up 2 years. Now you have this ridiculous coup that's going on, which is going to fail. When he wins, and here's my prediction, when he wins in 2020, and he will win big, this is going to go on for 4 years. It's going to be one stupid thing after another. One stupid, made-up, ridiculous thing. Can we all come to an agreement that the Russian hoax was a hoax that cost you $25 million in taxpayer money, that took up basically, I think it was 2/3 of the media airtime for 2 years on crap?
Yeah.
Could we all come to that agreement? It will go on for another 4 years because that's all you have.
Well,
it's pathetic and it's un-American.
That's right.
It's not American. It's not American. I'm sorry. You have every right to do what he said. Argue with him. Bring up challenge his policies. But you don't have a right to make up garbage. You're wasting everyone's time, and that's why I want them to get crushed in 2020. I want them to get crushed.
do you know that I, along those lines, I don't mind saying it, okay? I've said before that before the 2016 election, I think it was the Sunday before, we had Father Marius from the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal came over to Lyndhurst, and we did a rosary procession from the two parishes there on Ridge Road over to the park. We prayed the rosary. We adored Christ in the Blessed Sacrament. We prayed for a good outcome to the election, if you remember. Didn't pray for Donald Trump. Didn't pray for Hillary Clinton. We prayed for a good outcome to the election. I will tell you this. And of course, in our view, we got it, all right? And I just look at the judges to justify my reason why I voted for Donald Trump. As a Roman Catholic man, I know you feel the same way. Every night when I pray, I have a little litany of saints that I pray to. And I would recommend people do this, okay? This is something I stumbled on. Saint Benedict and Saint Boniface, okay, are two of the primary players in the Catholic Church and Catholic history for that are accredited with civilizing Europe. Okay, Boniface, I think, was England, and Benedict in the monastery, the monks, and the order he started eventually.
I think it was
Germany. Yeah, right, Germany.
Was Boniface?
Boniface might have been Germany too, but either way, it was England and Germany. And my point being is, I pray to those two saints. I pray to a number of saints for different intentions. I pray to those two saints every night in my little litany that I pray. Ask them to pray for America, to pray for Donald Trump, and to pray that the Democrats get beat in 2020, House, Senate, and presidency. I pray for it every night because not for anything. Like I said, Joe and I are realistic Americans. We could lose a political debate. We could lose on a particular political issue. A law might be passed that we vehemently disagree with. But we're Americans. These people are not Americans because they have no sense of losing, that you lose once in a while, that you have to respect the system and the system that we have in place because that protects all of us. Nobody says you don't keep fighting for what you want. We know that in the abortion movement, the pro-life movement, okay? The March for Life is going to be next week, okay? The end of next week. That's what Catholics do. We don't like it. We protest against it. We make our voices known, and eventually that law is going to be changed.
We don't hit people with batteries.
You're right. We don't hit people. We don't pepper spray people. We ask God, God who is patient, okay? We ask for patience, okay? And eventually we'll win. These people have no semblance of that.
And that's why you have to be honest with you, have to stand up, like I said, and don't support them financially. Stop. And someone just said this, Larry Magalochetti, the rosary, the greatest weapon against evil. Correct. As well as fasting, as well as stop supporting these people with your hard-earned money.
That's right. Keep your money in your pocket.
And you will change the culture.
You'll get their ear.
You will.
You will.
I'm just telling you. You will.
Yes, you will. So that was an interesting.
It's a good conversation.
Absolutely. We always have good conversations here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe because we're speaking every man's language. In other words, the everyday people out there are getting up and going to work are tired of all this nonsense. Not because you agree with us on everything, but you're tired of the nonsense. You're tired of the nonsense that's going out there in the culture, the politics, society. That's why we're growing. That's why we're getting interviews with people. That's why our audience is growing. And we have you to thank for it, okay? Because we're only having the same conversations you are. So I do want to make one final point before we go. In case anyone's interested, you can contact me on Messenger on Frontline with Joe and Joe, or you could friend me, Joseph Pasillo, because as of tomorrow, talk about fasting and prayer. I'm doing Exodus 90. I'm going to try. I've said it before. I do want to tell people. Exodus 90 is a 90-day ascetical program. So basically, what it is going to be a 90 days of prayer. There are ascetical practices, self-denial, giving up things, and then fraternity with other men who are doing Exodus 90. It starts tomorrow. It ends on Easter. If you're watching this and it's Wednesday of this week, you could always join in, okay, and then just end 2 days after. The purpose of it, number one, is to really rid your body of things that you don't need. It's not a diet. It's not a fad. It's not designed to lose weight, even though you probably will lose weight. What it is, again, is ascetical. It's self-denial. It's not reaching for things that you're used to reaching to. No alcohol, no sweets, no soda or
and we
sugary
talked about
drinks.
this in our basically the masculine crisis. We have a whole show on this. A man is in control of himself,
And that's what Exodus 90.
that's what
It's
about.
like the supercharger to get you into place where you're completely in control of most of all of the things that, let's say, you're a little too comfortable with, maybe even perhaps addicted to. Okay, and so it's Exodus 90. You could go online and see it. You could sign up. I think after the first week free trial, I think it's $10 a month. Okay, and by the way, this is not an advertisement for them. We get nothing for this. I think it's $10 a month for the 90 days. But I will say this: number one, you're in a fraternity of men who have the same focus in mind, which is to put Christ first in your life. All right, by getting rid of the things that we put in the way of our relationship with Christ. It really is a disciplinary. Like you said, it enables you to have discipline over your desires, from small desires to maybe not so small desires. There's an exercise involved. And primary to it, alongside that, is prayer that Joe just mentioned. It's 1 hour of prayer every day. 40 minutes of verbal prayer, 20 minutes of contemplative prayer, okay? And a whole host of other things. I, again, just gave you the quick overview. And if you're interested, contact me. Or go on Exodus 90, it lays it right out, and I encourage anybody to do it. If you want to join a fraternity with me, all right, where men are encouraging each other to follow it through for 90 days, one of my friends put it best. He goes, it's Christian boot camp. It's what it is. It's Catholic Christian boot camp. And you come at it on the other end, a better soldier for Christ. So something to think about.
And also, as far as the show goes, we have some very good interviews. So stay tuned. I'm not going to tell you with whom, particularly this week. They'll be posted shortly. We did one today. We have 2 more on the docket. Also, we will be on the Crusade channel. Look into prescribing to the Crusade channel. It is a great channel run out of Louisiana, right outside of New Orleans. Mike Church's operation. There's some very, very good shows on that channel. We'll be there on the 21st and on the 30th. From 11 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. So we're looking forward to that as well. And keep that on your radar.
All right. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us. And remember, our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. So see you next time.
Thank you for listening. Be well.
Hello again. And once more, dear friends, we are going into the breach. Oh, you're Catholic? Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. You acted like an American, okay? Now, there's a number of different things that have to be done in this country to change the culture, which will in turn change the politics.
And the culture's a swamp. Because that is not a Catholic teaching.
Right.
And the cafeteria is closed, my friend.
Yeah. Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Rasinello. And once more, dear friends, we are going into the breach. He tells the truth, just like we do at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on Sunday nights, 8 o'clock, Facebook Live. We got a great show for you tonight because, as we always say, the left is teeing it up for us, and we're Barry Bonds standing at home plate, ready to knock their lies right into San Francisco Bay.